The moment the elevator doors slid open, Mara Klein felt something inside her collapse. There was blood on the cuff of the janitor's sleeve, fresh and carelessly wiped, and in his eyes was a fear so quiet it looked like surrender. The most powerful CEO in the city stood frozen in a corporate hallway, realizing that the man she had ordered security to watch might be bleeding his life away in silence. If you're watching Broken Smill and you believe in hope, compassion, and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe, because stories like this exist for hearts that still believe. Mara Klein had built her empire on glass and daylight. Her headquarters rose like a mirror into the sky, sunlight flooding its open floors and sterile beauty into every corner. She believed in transparency, in clean lines, in never looking back. Raised by a mother who worked 2 jobs and still died tired, Mara learned early that weakness was a luxury she could not afford. By 38, she was a celebrated CEO, known for ruthless efficiency and philanthropic press releases that photographed well. Yet something had unsettled her recently, an unshakable awareness that every polished surface hid a crack underneath. That awareness had a name now, even if she didn't know it yet. Elias Rowan, single father, night shift janitor, the man who scrubbed her floors after everyone else went home. Elias moved through the building like a shadow that had learned not to ask for light. During the day, while his daughter sat in a public school across town, he cleaned classrooms, offices, and restrooms with a discipline born of necessity. Once, years ago, he had been an electrician with steady hands and quiet pride. Then his wife's illness drained their savings, then her death drained the rest of him. What remained was a man who woke before sunrise, packed lunches with trembling care, and counted every hour as a debt he owed his child. He never complained. Complaints, he knew, were expensive. Mara first noticed him not because of his work but because of his absence. One afternoon, while touring a newly renovated wing, she saw him pause outside a conference room, pressing his palm against his chest as if steadying himself. He looked thinner than the others, older in the way grief ages people without warning. Later that day, she reviewed attendance logs and saw the pattern. Overtime accepted. Sick days refused. Breaks skipped. Something about that quiet endurance disturbed her more than any shouted protest ever could. Curiosity is a dangerous thing for people used to control. Mara told herself she was only ensuring employee welfare. Still, when she instructed her driver to follow the janitor after work, the lie tasted bitter. The city outside the building was loud and bright, daylight glinting off traffic and storefronts. Elias walked past bus stops and convenience stores, past places that sold comfort he couldn't afford. He crossed into a neighborhood where sidewalks cracked and sunlight felt thinner. Mara watched from a distance as he unlocked a small apartment door and disappeared inside, her chest tightening with a feeling she did not recognize as guilt. Yet, days passed. The image of the bloodstain on his sleeve returned to her again and again. She learned more without meaning to. Elias' daughter, Nia, was 10, small for her age, with a spine curved slightly from carrying a backpack too heavy with borrowed books. He walked her to school every morning before starting his shift, his eyes always scanning the street as if danger were a language he had learned fluently. One afternoon, Mara saw him at the school gate, his shirt soaked through from heat and effort, his face softening only when Nia ran into his arms. The sunlight caught dust in the air, turning the moment into something almost sacred. Mara felt her throat burn. Life tested Elias without apology. His hand injury worsened from cleaning chemicals and untreated cuts. He hid it with bandages and determination. Bills stacked on the kitchen counter like silent threats. When the school sent a notice about a field trip fee, he folded it carefully and placed it under a magnet, as if delaying its power to hurt him. At night when Nia slept, he allowed himself a few minutes of breaking, shoulders shaking, breath uneven, before standing again, because morning would come whether he was ready or not. Mara's own nights were sleepless now. She stared at ceiling lights in her penthouse, thinking of the way Elias counted coins at a grocery store, of how daylight seemed harsher in his world. She remembered her mother's hands, cracked and tired, the way society had called that strength invisible. For the first time in years, Mara felt ashamed of the distance between her and the people who kept her world functioning. The breaking point came on a bright afternoon when Elias collapsed in the supply room, the smell of disinfectant sharp in the air. His body simply refused to continue. Coworkers found him slumped against a cart, eyes open but unfocused. By the time he was taken to a clinic, the diagnosis was cruelly simple: exhaustion, infection, untreated injury. Rest was prescribed like a joke. Rest did not exist in his vocabulary. Mara arrived at the clinic later that day, standing in the sunlight outside, unsure whether she deserved to step inside. She saw Nia sitting on a plastic chair, feet not touching the floor, clutching her father's jacket like a lifeline. The child's eyes carried a fear too old for her face. In that moment, something irreversible happened inside Mara. Power, she realized, meant nothing if it never reached moments like this. She did not fix everything overnight. Life is not a miracle montage. Instead, change arrived quietly, deliberately. Elias was given paid medical leave disguised as a policy update. His apartment building received anonymous repairs. A scholarship fund appeared at Nia's school with no name attached. Mara watched from afar as stability slowly replaced panic in their daily rhythm. Elias returned to work weeks later, walking straighter, unaware of the hand guiding the ground beneath his feet. Still, the greatest change was internal. Mara began walking the building floors during the day, greeting workers she had once passed without seeing. She spent time in classrooms her company sponsored, sunlight spilling over desks filled with children who carried futures as fragile as glass. She felt her own wounds surface, her fear of becoming irrelevant, of admitting that success without compassion was just another form of poverty. As this story nears its end, take a moment to comment below and share what part moved you most. Your voice matters more than you think. The final transformation came when Elias, now healthier, volunteered to help rewire a community center after hours. Nia sat nearby doing homework, sunlight slanting through dusty windows. Mara stood in the doorway unseen, watching a man reclaim dignity not through charity, but through opportunity. She understood then that what she had discovered was not a secret life, but a truth society often refuses to face, that heroes wear uniforms we rarely applaud. If this story touched your heart, please support Broken Smill by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your support keeps these stories alive. In the end, Mara Klein learned that leadership was not about being followed, but about finally seeing. Elias Rowan learned that strength did not mean suffering alone. And in the quiet spaces between daylight and responsibility, a child learned that the world could be kinder than it first appeared. The city continued to move, glass buildings still reflecting the sun, but somewhere within them, compassion had taken root. And for those who watched closely, it changed everything.